Where do you what do you think this quarterback battle is going to look like by the end of spring?
Okay, so my thing was mainly just where I can't be in the heads or the mind space of these young athletes. Like, I don't know exactly what their plans are if they don't get it. I don't know exactly how Kenny Minchie feels, CJ Carr, Steve Angeli. I don't know exactly their opinions on the rest of their career if they lose. And they're competitors, so you obviously think that they're going to say all the right things and they're going to be there till the very end, tooth and nail. But at the end of the day, it's a business. I think as far as this quarterback battle is concerned, Steve Angeli, I think it really is a lot of I think he spent so much time within the program. And I think with Carr recovering from, what he had to deal with last season, the lack of play time for Minchie, I think Angeli's just inevitably also started with the lead. And I think I don't know if that's for sure. You could correct me on that. I would imagine, I mean, they're getting split reps across the board, but I thought that he would have started at least at the front. And I
Yeah,
think unless he does something really bad or one of the others are undeniable, I thought it was kind of his to not lose because that feels a little too strong, but somewhere right under that.
I think that's probably right. I mean, he is the veteran. If he wins the job, he'll probably be a captain. That's sort of where it's at for him. Um, I wonder how much value they place on, because of the three, which would you say has the lowest ceiling?
Probably Steve Angeli.
And he probably has the lowest or the highest floor of the three from the experience standpoint. And I think that's why it puts him in sort of the pole position at the start. But one of the go ahead.
Yeah, no, continue.
I mean, one of the things too is how much do you value then that ceiling, and what is the difference in the ceiling? And Steve Angeli's been in the program. He's got his degree, but they've went to the transfer portal twice over him. And does Freeman want to Miller Moss it? Right? Does he want to go the Miller Moss route of just being like, you put in your time, you're our guy, or Kevin McDougal? Like, what do they want to do that? And it works sometimes, but it doesn't. Or do one of the two younger ones? I mean, CJ Carr probably has the highest ceiling, maybe. I mean, I think Minchie has a more diverse skill set. I think that he's got some pretty good wheels. I saw Denbrock speaking on it the other day, and he mentioned that he's as good a runner as Leonard was, which I was like, oh yeah, different runner, but he's probably good. But it's I like that there is, with this battle, there's a healthy contrast between them. There's the guy that has more experience, has played in a playoff game in the biggest spot of the whole season. Notre Dame is in the mud, cannot get out of their own way offensively. He comes in, provides a spark at the end of the half, gets a field goal. And I mean, I don't know if they make it. I don't know if they win that game if he doesn't provide that spark. But at the same time, I watch him drop back. I watch him take sacks. I watch him hold on to the football. I don't see a pocket awareness that, and hopefully the offensive line should be the strength of this team going into the year. But it is of concern to me that he still has those same tendencies that he's always had. And I don't know, I don't know if the coaches feel comfortable with that, because they obviously didn't feel comfortable going into 24 with him, despite being the bowl MVP. They still went to the transfer portal and still got Riley Leonard. I am interested to see what it looks like after the spring, because I think that someone's transferring. And I think whatever conversations that the coaches have post spring, like if you're Steve Angeli and you're told this battle is legitimately going into the fall, if you're Steve Angeli, you have your Notre Dame degree, do you, even though they haven't announced a starter, but do you take a battle into the fall, knowing that this is your last year of eligibility, and if you don't win that battle in the fall, you won't play. You'll probably never start another football game.
I think I think if you're him, it's simply a business. And as you mentioned, the two guys coming in for and kind of skipping the line, if you will, and being brought in ahead of him is super unfortunate for his career. And for him to just be here this long is so impressive. So it's like, yeah, if you're told legitimately, hey, look, we don't know, maybe if they say they don't know, and this is something I feel like hasn't been also talked about enough. I think we always think that Angeli's going to be the one to transfer. Maybe somebody else, maybe either Minchie or CJ Carr, end up deciding that they don't want to continue it in the fall either. And that's something that he also weighs. And he says, okay, well, if this continues and I only have to go against one other person, well, then shoot, I'm just going to roll the dice and do it that way. So we don't know that either. But like, yeah, I think it's simply, and I think that they know that, it's not going to affect their decision on what they decide to do. But I think they're aware that, this is a man who, like you mentioned, you want to play football. You don't know if your last truly meaningful snap, has already been played, and it was against Penn State. I have no idea. And I agree. I don't think they win that game unless he comes in and they get some points on the board at the end of that drive. I think that is his biggest audition tape almost too. Where it's like he came in and you're saying all this about the floor or he's only got a certain ceiling. Well, he was able to do that on that stage. That's pretty darn impressive. And I'd like to think that this offense potentially could get more explosive, even more explosive than it was with either Riley Leonard or Sam Hartman. So
yeah, I mean, year 2, Denbrock as well, and then the wide receiver position continues to grow, and the offensive line. What did you hit me with? How many starts did the offensive line have against Texas A&M in the opener? 6. How many could they potentially have this?
58.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you're gonna have a line, and the way that the line's trending right now, with having Jagisaw guard and then potentially Gerby Lambert and Emil Wagner. I mean, it's gonna be a beefy line. It's going to be an enormously talented and good offensive line. And for a guy that holds on to the football, I mean, maybe that helps. Maybe it lets some guys get open downfield and it pays off for him. But if he transfers, we know that it was either maybe he didn't necessarily win it, but we know that he didn't have the job coming out of the fall. And then conversely, if he doesn't transfer, and they don't name a starter, I think that tells you something as well. I mean, if he doesn't transfer, I think that he then goes into fall camp in the pole position earnestly in the pole position. I think it would be very difficult to lose it going into the fall. And Marcus is pretty open with these players and is very realistic. He doesn't sugarcoat it. He tells his players exactly where they stand. So whatever comes about it, I actually wouldn't be entirely surprised if one of the quarterbacks didn't transfer after the scrimmage this weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody transferred after the on like Monday or Sunday or Monday. I wouldn't be entirely surprised if that happened.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. And I mentioned it just a second ago. I think it's super important to also recognize that Angeli's definitely not the only one who could potentially transfer here. Like, it is not just him. Like, there's so many different combinations and so many different things that is up in the air simply because it's 3 individuals. And there's so many different things. I did also want to mention too that the snap count is super interesting to me, because I think we do say that Angeli has all of this more experience, and he certainly does, and big time stuff. I've started a bowl game, all that sort of stuff. But he's had 245 snaps in his career. CJ Carr 4. And Kenny Minchie was 17. Like, total, that is such a low number for all of those guys. So yeah. I'd also imagine, as much as he might be the pace car, it's still not like he had started 6 games or something like that. So it's
and even the bowl game, was against mostly backups.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon State's like what?
They lost their head coach. Yeah, they lost their head coach, and it was just out the door. But I mean, whoever doesn't win, I would like to highlight this from Joel. There is an opening at Mizzou, as Drew Pine has decided to take his talents elsewhere. I mean, that is a how many different teams? He was at Arizona State, right? Notre
Yep.
Dame, Mizzou, and now fourth team. And he was at Notre Dame. I mean, what, 2 years, 3 years? So he's taking every ounce of that COVID exemption and using it to his advantage.
I can't believe there's still that. There's still the COVID exemption. Like,
I think this is the last year.
Okay, I think this is as well. Yeah, if my memory serves me correctly, it was the first 3 years at Notre Dame, and now 3 different teams in the last 3 years.
And the guys that stuck around, like no one is ever breaking like Jack Kaiser's like snap counts or games played or anything like that. No one will ever assail a lot of these statistics put up by the kids that got the additional year.
Oh yeah, they definitely won't. I'm taking a look at some of the stats for him too. Just hasn't really been able to stick on as like the starter for any of these teams.
I mean, a lot of people go to college for 7 years. Yeah, they're called doctors.